Start over.
Yeah, why
I
not?
call to order tonight's meeting of the Harbor and Shellfish Advisory Board, January 17th, 2023. Approval of tonight's agenda, please.
So moved, Mr. Chairman. This is Ginger.
Seconded by Scott Anderson.
Motion's made by Ms. Andrews, seconded by Mr. Anderson to approve tonight's agenda. All in favor, Ms. Andrews,
Aye.
Mr. Anderson.
Aye.
Mr. Brace.
All right,
Mr. Franzuto.
Aye.
Mr. Bossy.
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Did everybody get a chance to look at the minutes? We'll start with November 15th. Any revisions? If there are none, I'll accept a motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Scott Anderson.
Second, Dave Bossy.
Motion's made by Mr. Anderson to approve minutes of November 15th, 2022, seconded by Dave Bossy. All in favor, Ms. Andrews?
I think I missed that one.
All right,
Was I there? Was
No,
it
you
Sam?
and I went.
I missed that one.
Mr. Anderson,
Aye.
Mr. Franzuto,
I'll abstain.
Mr. Brace,
all right,
Mr. Bossy.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. December 6th. Any revisions for the draft minutes of December 6th, 2022? If not, I'll accept a motion to approve.
So
So
moved.
moved. Second,
By Ginger Andrews, seconded by Dave Fossey to approve the minutes of December 6th, 2022. All in favor, Ms. Andrews,
Aye.
Mr. Anderson,
Aye.
Mr. Brace,
all right.
Mr. Franzuto,
I wasn't there.
Mr. Bossy.
aye.
Wait, you were there, Dave.
Oh, I was.
Yep, I heard you.
Oh, was I,
Thank you.
oh, was I on the,
Yeah, you were on. I know
Oh.
because you had your cigar.
Oh, okay, then I'll go now.
Davis Bevins as well, or is that the next one? Thank you. The chairman's report, 2023 annual town election, candidacy dates and discussion. Mr. Brace, is there something?
Yeah, anybody who's gonna run again, which would be me and Dave, if we so choose. Papers are, you can pick them up on February 6th. And they gotta be dropped off by March 22nd.
Thank you, Mr. Brace.
Also,
I'm hoping both of you will run for reelection.
if we both get bumped off, or if one of us doesn't run or whatever. Like if I get bumped off, then I won't be the representative to Crack. And then I won't be Crack's representative to the Harbor Plan Committee, and likewise, you wouldn't be representative for us. So
Right.
the rest of us who stay on, and hopefully I'll get reelected. Should think about which committees they want to be on.
Yes. And we have time and we'll be bringing this up again at future meetings. Marine Department report. Not seeing any representation. We'll move to Natural Resources report.
That's me.
Tara, please, Tara Riley.
Okay, so we are going to have our first harbor plan meeting on February 7th from 11 to 12. I think it is to be determined where it's going to be, but most likely in this building. So that we'll send that around once we have a confirmation on that agenda.
Yeah, I had talked to Starbuck, Mr. Kim,
Mhm.
and I recommended this building because of the Zoom thing.
Right,
So,
yes, 'cause I know,
because I'm gonna
Yeah.
be down, but I wanted to attend, so.
okay.
Why can't they have the Zoom thing with the comfortable chairs are in the committee?
I know.
I'll go grab those chairs.
Okay, so in Hatchery news, I think I told you guys that we received a gift from the Great Harbor Yacht Club. It's a bioreactor, so it grows microalgae for the hatchery, a single species at a time. You essentially inoculate it and it's automated. It will grow your algae and harvest it add nutrients and water. So essentially it can go for a minimum of 8 weeks without having to clean or restart anything. I'm hoping that it will replace all of our Isocrisis, which is our main species of algae that we grow. And then we'll just have like some supplemental species. So I'm thinking that it'll definitely decrease our labor and probably replace the need for a full algae technician for the season. So, but we're gonna go through this season with the bioreactor and our old algae system intact, just so we can work out the kinks and be covered in the meantime. So we're pretty excited about that. There are a lot of hatcheries that have been using these bioreactors, and it's slowly been replacing their production. And we've been able to look at there's some places on the Cape, like ARC and Dennis has one, and some places, Highland Creek just got one in Duxbury too. So we're excited about that. So what we have going at the hatchery right now is basically we're growing all of our starter cultures in preparation to inoculate this big spaceship that's set to land either Thursday or Friday. So we'll see how that goes. We just had a lot of wind, so we went out today to walk the beaches. I know Peter did a big stretch to look for seed strandings, and Peter, you said you didn't see any.
Nothing, well, I mean, I could probably count on both hands the numbers that I saw that looked like they recently came out of the water between the Octagon House on Loretta Lane and all the way to Wallwinnet. Of course, I didn't walk all the way to Wallwinnet, but the birds always tell you that they're there, and there were no birds.
Yeah.
So,
So I did the stretch between Fulling Mill and Abrams, and Fulling Mill right where the creek comes out, and there's also a marsh. I'm not sure.
Folder mark.
Is that Folders?
No,
No, it's
I don't know.
it's the other one. I don't think of the name. Anyways, at both locations, there were probably like 5 bushels each. But the seed had blown up really high on the beach, like almost to the grass, and a lot of it was clean and dry. So I have a feeling, I don't know how it got that clean and dry in a couple days, but maybe it did, or maybe it was from a previous blow. I don't know. But there were still some kind of in the creeks underwater that were still alive, but it didn't seem like enough to really make like an effort to get them. The birds were all sitting on them and eating them. So pretty shells for anyone that wants to collect them. They're right there at Fulling Mill. Leah walked from, she did Pocomo and Quays and the UMass field station, and just saw a handful here and there, but nothing major. So our biggest seed population from our surveys was right off of Fulling Mill and Abrams, and that was at the beginning of the season, something that I talked to the fishermen about, being vulnerable to seed strandings, and that I was worried about. And they went out and did some tows, and they didn't seem as worried about it. So we just decided to kind of wait and see. So I'm hoping that since a lot of people have been fishing in that area, that as the seed has been coming up in the dredges, they've been, culling off in deeper water. So that's my hopes, is since we didn't see much, that hopefully it's still there. The warden has been turning in daily log sheets, and from what I've kind of put together, there's around 6 to 10 boats, more on this, like 6 to 8, I would say, probably split between the 2 harbors, and like 30 to 50 bushels a day. So that's kind of where we're at. I did hear that the price is down to $13 a pound, which is low. So that's a bummer. In other news, we have 2 open positions at the hatchery right now. So we have the water quality position that we are getting ready to advertise for. And then Vince's position was vacant, and we did a round of interviews, and the assistant biologist, Leah Hill, for the hatchery applied for that and was offered the position and accepted. So they're working on that transition right now. So we have 2 people down there, me and Joe Manila, and so we'll be hiring 2 more full-time people moving forward. Water quality from last season, we just got the raw data today, and they are going to work up the analysis in the next couple of weeks. So we should have some information for you on how the season compared to the past. And it's kind of all I have right now, unless you guys have
What
questions.
position did Leah take?
So Leah occupied the assistant biologist position, and she filled the coastal resiliency coordinator position that's been
I
set.
see. So she moved, oh, I see,
Mhm.
okay.
So the two positions open is water quality and
Assistant biologist.
That's,
Um,
So
I think this is a good thing to have the turnover and have some new people in with new ideas. It also is giving our department, I mean, when we made these positions, they were made, like 8 to 10 years ago. And so the job descriptions are very dated for every position. I mean, my job description says I'm in charge of marine mammal strandings, which I'm not at all. And so it's a chance for our department to kind of look at everything and update it and kind of bring things up to date. There's no mention of the hatchery in my original job description, so this is good to rework everything and add some things in that we have more of a need for now.
Scott.
And back in November, you gave a guesstimated take on scallops, somewhere between 3,000 to 5,000. You
Yeah, I have to
get
look.
more firm numbers?
No, I will get it for you for the next meeting. I will.
having served on crack now for almost 3 years. It's a huge job. I'm not saying that she doesn't have the skill, but I mean. Well, does she? I'm sorry.
I mean, she applied for the position and was fully vetted through
Okay,
everyone. I think that, she's handled a lot of projects and permitting and that sort of thing and reviewed stuff. So I think that it'll be a great position for her to grow into.
and Vince will kind of be sort of sitting in
Vince will be her supervisor.
okay. I don't mean anything at all, Leah, just.
Yeah, it's
I guess
a
Vince-
little bit of a different position compared to like what we do down at the hatchery.
Vince set the bar pretty high.
Yep.
And then, I know some of us want to attend the first meeting of the Harbor Plan Update Committee and get our information to that. Shab's concerns, but I would not recommend the first meeting because we'll just be getting settled and probably getting a presentation from Urban Harbors and.
I know that Urban Harbors said that they will be here for the entirety of the day and that if there were some meetings to set up that you were interested in talking to them about something, then you might be able to do like an initial type meeting.
Tara, is there, or could you, I'm not even sure if it's, let's say, ethical or not, but the Shellfish Association has given grants to 1 or 2 people that I know of pursuing an education in marine biology. And I'm just curious how far along those students may be. And if your department is able to reach out to NSA to who those people are. And because part of the NSA's, as you probably know, part of their reasoning for doing this and what they ask is if you will return and pursue a job here on island and after your education. So they'll give grants and gosh, one had to be 3 years ago now. And so I'm just curious if there's a way you can connect and find out if there's just, somebody out there that may be willing to come back and could be completing an education and be
Definitely, we're gonna,
qualified.
yeah, we'll be advertising through all avenues, not just locally or social
Yeah.
media. We've got a lot of science boards and stuff that we're gonna link into.
And you need to have those positions filled by a certain time?
tomorrow.
Okay.
But we'll probably advertise, next week, I would say, at the earliest, because we're still trying to work a few things out, and then I imagine, I mean, typically the town leaves positions open for at least 2 weeks, so I'm thinking at least 3 or 4 weeks, we'll see, we'll just kind of see what makes the most sense with timing. I mean, this is the time that you don't really want to roll into the season with brand new people, but it's gonna take some training and some time and a lot of work.
Thank you, Tara. Board members, any more questions? For natural resources? Or marine department? Public comment on marine department and or natural resources? Not seeing or hearing any, we'll move to old business. Vineyard Wind discussion. We had an update at our last meeting from Amy DeCibio. A quick explanation of the latest with an appeal related more to within our jurisdiction. If there's anything the board would like to discuss, I've would like to add that I've forwarded Mr. Sibio your email addresses and so that she can send information. I asked at the last meeting if this were okay, and it seemed to be okay with everybody. If not, please let me know. And while we have Tara here, I just asked one question that would directly relate to us, something she had mentioned and had a report on about silt plumes and how far a silt plume can travel from the disturbance of creating an offshore wind energy. Any information you could share with our knowledge on silt pluming?
I mean, I would have to do some looking on that and get back to you on it. I don't have a lot of information.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, on that, the only thing I could relate it to is when they put up silt fencing when they're doing a dredge project.
Mhm.
And that's primarily because of the shallowness of the water.
Mhm.
But I would believe that out there where they're putting those towers, the whatever gets disturbed is got enough depth of the water for it to sink rather quickly. If you're dredging and you put up a silt fence so that it doesn't go into the adjacent area, but that's because it's so shallow. So I would think that out there, as deep as it is, I don't think it would be an issue. I don't know, I may be totally wrong, but I'm just trying to, when she said that, that's the only example of silt fencing that I know of, is when they're dredging. And you want to keep it out of the eelgrass, you want to keep it, you want to keep it contained. But out there, I don't know, maybe there may be a lot more information to the way they excavate for those towers, than I know anything about it.
Yeah, along that line, I have more concern when they start to cut the cable back to the mainland, when they get closer to Muskegon, areas like that.
Where it's shallower. Yeah, and I've said this before, I don't know if you've ever been in Muskegon Channel, it's the worst piece of water I've ever been in 70 years. The current roars through there on any tide. It's just a terrible piece of water to navigate, so they're gonna have their hands cut, their work cut out for them to dig those cables in there.
I mean, aren't they gonna use they're gonna use a hydroplow like they used for putting in the cable for National Grid, which is a towed cart on the bottom with wheels
Right.
and like a ditch witch type of thing with jets that is just opening up the bottom, and they're laying the cable into that. And if the currents are that ferocious,
And the amount,
then if the currents are going out or actually in,
Mm.
then all that silt's gonna go out there.
And the amount of cobble, the amount of stone that's in that channel is unbelievable. We did some work over there. You and I did work over there with the trustees at one time. It's terrible, man. I don't envy them trying to do that in there.
But are they telling us that they're concerned that there's gonna be so much silt, it's all gonna wash in and fill in the harbor, that it's gonna come 13 miles or whatever? I just,
So I believe it was related more to the studies showing how far the silt can travel and then possibly its effects of sunlight in the water, its shading and whatever else silt can
yeah,
negatively affect. Certainly, we need more information on it, and if you know, currents are moving around and the silt is fine enough. Mr. Sibio seemed to have some information on it traveling 10 to 12 miles or more, and that could certainly bring silt from this project into our waters. We have 2 incoming tides every day. So it would be interesting to know if there were any effects. And the other thing that would be near our shores would be the cable installation, but also what do studies show and what does history tell us about the effects on wildlife and the cables when they're actually in use, and the whatever electromagnetism or whatever that is emitted from the cables. I mean, you see pictures of deformed lobsters and you know, I'd want to have hard facts on that, certainly to you know, to continue with discussion concerning us here in our harbors.
Have they presented any information about the substrate where they're placing these things? What the bottom is like and how deep before it hits bedrock and things like that?
I believe that's the testing that's being done right now. And so basically what they're doing is sending out some type of a signal to determine the density of the soils that they'll be working in. So which, you know, at this point, it's hard to relate, or there are no hard facts presented at this point,
Okay.
but there's a coincidence with some whales washing up in New Jersey and this activity taking place off the Jersey coast, as far as I know,
Well,
as we speak. So
what I can recollect from years ago when I was on the Conservation Commission, of obviously the finer the material, the further it travels. And, you know, it'll travel in the current, and the timing of when it's done has a lot to do with whether it impacts juvenile fish, plankton, things like that.
you're back to silt.
What's that?
You're talking about silt?
Right,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, obviously the heavier grains sink first, and the, you know, the ocean sorts by size and weight. So the clays travel faster.
Any more discussion, thoughts, ideas?
Can I
Comments?
ask one, has anybody gotten an email from her? Have you? Scott?
No.
I haven't either.
Okay, I just sent it this afternoon.
Okay. All right.
So,
All right,
so
great.
I'm very tardy in getting that
No,
out to her.
no, I just didn't know if anybody else.
She sent a couple of items to me, which I just reviewed today, so I figured we'll take some time for more information to come up as well, and I'm sure you'll be seeing some information in your email. Anything else?
Andy, this is Amy DeSivio. I'm actually on the call. Am I allowed to say anything? I don't know when that is. I don't know what the procedure is.
Do you have time? I'm supposed to run through and unless.
No,
if-
I just wanted to let you know that I'm here and I did just get the email. So that was really it.
Do you have something you'd like to add tonight in the
No,
discussion?
not really. Nope. You guys pretty much covered it all. I mean, with respect to the silt plumes, I did show you guys aerial shots of that. So I don't know. I think that's a great question about the depth of the water. I don't know the answer to that. I can try to look into it. But they were showing aerial views of, they weren't speculating that there were silt plumes. These were aerial views of silt plumes. I believe it was in the North Sea. So I would assume there's a fairly good depth there, but I don't know the answer, but I can poke around. And otherwise, but that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. And any more detailed information on the effects from the electric cables themselves would be good to know as well.
Okay. Yeah. And yep, I can look that up. Silt plumes. Yeah. And then the other thing is about the dead whales. I actually reside in New Jersey, and New Jersey, this has been a, top shelf news item in New Jersey. The whales have been rolling up dead on the beaches here at alarming rates, unprecedented. And, there's just a lot of questioning going on as to why. I think that there are a lot of people jumping quickly to the conclusion that this is from the geophysical and geotechnical testing that's going on out there. But there is, they have to do the studies first. But I think what's been disappointing is that they haven't really done the necropsies on all the whales. And one of the most important things that they should be looking at are the whales' ears. So this type of testing tends to damage their hearing. And I guess the adage is a deaf whale is a dead whale, right? So hopefully they'll get their heads around that and figure out really what the source of all these whale deaths are. And they've been, there have been, I think, 7 or 8 in New Jersey alone, but I know that they saw another one yesterday down in Maryland. So must be something going on. So hopefully they can get to the bottom of that.
Thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
If there's nothing else on Vineyard Wind, we'll move forward to green crabs.
Only one thing, I've been doing some of my research, that there was a study done in China that shows that, well, it's not just green crabs, it's lobsters, it's all types of shellfish. There's a chemical component in their shell that could replace lithium batteries. So I did want to do a little bit more research on that, because obviously lithium is a big issue with Ukraine and everything, and batteries. So I was trying to figure out how many obscure things can also drag in that might attach to green crabs to keep people's interest on it. So, or get people interested to harvest them. I know it's a lot of green crabs to harvest, but and I am working on a presentation to go to the harbor group.
Scott, however you pull together your information, if you want to update us every meeting, that's perfectly fine. We'll keep this on the agenda. It's an interesting topic. There's still a lot more to learn. Have you spoken with anybody at Land Council? And I was
haven't
just
yet.
curious if
I will reach out.
if
to
they
Land
have an
Council.
ongoing study. Would you know, Tara, if the
They
Land
usually
Council?
have something going seasonally where they pot some green crabs in different places throughout the harbor, and then they keep them under a dock for like educational purposes.
Mhm.
Last year, they hosted a green crab fertilizer clinic for people to come.
I attended that. Actually, I did have dinner with Posey Constable, and she was interested in pursuing more things with like sustainable Nantucket and how they might get involved too. So I know you're involved with that, Peter.
Well, I'm not sure if they're part of the cause of damage in some of our salt marshes. I remember not too long ago, walking down into the creeks over here, and you see quite a few chunks of the salt marsh breaking away from the edges, whether it's from erosion. I think there was some discussion about it, the erosion being helped along by crab activity. I'm not sure if it's the green crabs or some other crab that was mentioned as well, burrowing into the embankments at the edge of the creeks and making quite a bit of the soil and its vegetation to break off and drop into the creeks. And it would be interesting to know if the green crabs are, the guilty party in this, so to speak.
I think the marsh eating crabs are the purple marsh
Right.
crab.
Mm,
Those are the ones that eat
Those are
the marsh.
culprits.
We have not yet had a snow goose problem, but they have been really implicated in the Chesapeake for just because they eat tubers and roots as well. They have just really eaten the marshes, down into the mud. They've eaten the Spartina lock, stock and barrel. So that's not a problem that we've had here really with, sort of one at a time, but snow geese have become I don't think they've been given invasive status yet, but they went from being overhunted, nearly destroyed to exploding population. So we're seeing them more and more often.
the snow geese have purple marsh eating crabs on in their diet as well.
No, but whimbrels would. Whimbrels will eat crabs. They'll eat vegetation also, but we have so few of them that they're probably not a major impact.
Anything to add to green crabs?
I do. I forgot to mention that we're working on our eelgrass management plan with JJ Orth. That's hopefully be done by the end of February, but I imagine within that plan, there will be a section on green crab management and just some recommendations that come out of it for moving forward.
Great. Anybody else? Harbor Action Plan Committee. Harbor Shellfish Advisory Board recommendations. Discussion.
February 7th.
February 7th. Well, we as board members should, really prioritize, our ideas and have them ready to whether we submit or pass it on to one of you or both of you to bring in. I know I'd certainly, as you all know, would like to see more studying and action taking place on dredging, and especially areas that are completely void of eelgrass that appear to have a dense amount of granular sand that is washed off the beaches, and I still have this feeling that in doing so, we could help our eelgrass beds increase production. And certainly there are plenty of other things we could, and I'm sure, what we know is known by others as well, but maybe as the plan goes along, it will also help us to reflect back on our ideas and concerns. Hopefully pool water discharge is taken into consideration, and also stormwater runoff and everything else in between. Board members, something to say? Any discussion on the Harbor Action Plan?
I think the meeting's at 11.
Recommendations? Mhm.
Is that right?
Yeah,
11?
looking forward to getting started.
I mean, I don't know if we're gonna jump right in or what it's gonna be.
And is there a deadline?
I heard a year, but then it could go longer. Right,
They're gonna discuss that at the first meeting.
Okay,
as long as it takes, but then it's done, and then there's a harbor plan, another committee after that that will implement it.
Right.
So you have the plan, here it is. Now the rest of you go ahead and put it into service.
all right, we look forward to report from the next meeting. From the first meeting at our next meeting. Sediment transport study and dredge plan. Tara, is there anything you can,
I don't think there's any updates since the last.
Well, it's
update that
put
I
out to
gave you.
bid.
It is put out to bid,
for the plan to be created?
correct,
Okay,
feasibility.
To hire somebody to do that.
Did they?
I don't think
Alright.
anyone's been hired yet. I'll have to look at the dates and try and remember what they were.
and it's our understanding that there's time for us to be able to have some input in this as well.
Yeah,
I think you would just attend meetings,
Mhm.
you know, and Dave will be there.
Oh, yeah, most definitely.
And Dave will speak for us.
What, at the sediment transport study and dredge
Oh,
plan?
no.
Oh, no, once they let a contract, I've already talked to Jeff, I don't wanna be involved.
Okay. Great. So it would be good to be kept up to date on when meetings will take place for that as well. Any more discussion on this topic? Pool water discharge. Have you heard through your office, Tara, if it seems as though the discharge that took place in Monomoy had a good amount of exposure, so to speak, and we're hopeful here that Natural Resources and Health Department are working on how to address this, especially since new pools are being created weekly, not all of them in the area where discharge may make it to the harbors, but it's certainly an issue that, like I said, we're hopeful that both of the departments will work on a plan to address this.
Eight last week permit requested.
Yeah,
I think that's insane.
yeah.
Say it again.
For new pools? Eight
Yeah.
permits for pools, like just last week,
Mhm.
and that's been the 5 to 8 is the running tally.
Yeah, I just don't get it.
I don't know.
But the whole thing about the salt water pools, you know, when I was a kid, my parents took us down the coast from where we summered, and there were some other distant relatives, and they had a pool right on the shore. And then there was stairs that went to the beach, so the thing was you swam in the pool and you ran in the water, and I'm like, I don't get it.
I don't get
Get it.
it.
What the attraction is. I mean, the ocean's right there. Why don't you swim in the ocean?
I guess it's either resale value or rentability.
Because it's salt water.
I don't know. I can't get my head around it either, Peter. I honestly can't.
And just a little side note about permits, you know, the place where my family has where my sister and I own up in Vinyl Haven, Maine. They're, you know, because of house sales going crazy in 2020. There were a lot of properties that changed hands up there, and they just got inundated with requests for permits to build piers with floats.
Sure, yeah.
And they don't have a moratorium up there. And so what that means is those people have to buy granite, and the granite has to be placed, and then they put a gangway over it, a walkway, and then a gangway that goes down to a float. and
Right.
It's a huge operation, and there's only like maybe 1 or 2 companies that do it, but it's just an explosion of water development.
I mean, it's been a long time since we prohibited them. A long time, and I still believe it was the best thing we could ever have done.
Yeah,
for all the environmental reasons, but also just the water quality, water flow, and circulation, all the right reasons, I believe.
And
Yes, Tara.
I just looked and the sediment transport study dredge plan closed on January 12th. So I haven't seen any of the proposals yet, but they will be handed over, I'm sure, very soon.
Thank you, Shara.
Make sure that, let me know.
I will.
Any more discussion on pool water discharge? We'll move forward to health of the harbor, stormwater runoff and harbor impacts. And the possible production of a zone map of contributing properties whose runoff ends up in the harbor.
And listen to the minutes. The 2 sets of minutes in 36 hours, and now I'm at a SHAB meeting, so I've got it coming out of my eyes, but in listening to those minutes. The way Mr. Bossy talked about how you can go on the GIS system and show the little watersheds or the little neighborhoods within the watershed to the harbor. It made me think that it doesn't sound like once we figure it all out, we can just do a mock-up and recommend it to the select board, and maybe they'll run with it, or maybe the Shellfish Association will fund somebody to work on it, pay, is it Nathan Porter at the GIS, and he's, you probably go to him and say, this is what we want. We just want a little, go ahead. I'm sorry, Dave.
No. To that point, I think the other thing that we discussed was that what I wanted to do was sponsor a workshop at the community room with, and invite anybody that's interested in, if their watershed or if their neighborhood is contributing to an issue, and do it like we did the FEMA flood maps, where people would come in, they would give us the address, we'd put it up on the big screen, and we would show them. Say, yep, here's your house and here's your contribution, and SHAB would sponsor that, and we'd get Porter involved to generate the stuff. But do it like that, do it like from, I don't know, 1 to 4 on a Saturday afternoon, and invite the public and say, if you're concerned about your possible contribution to the demise of Nantucket Harbor, come and we'll show you on the big screen. That was what I was hoping we would do. Because it truly worked with the FEMA. I don't know if I know I told you that story, but there were 1,200 and some properties that were affected by the new FEMA flood maps, and at the end of the day, it ended up being truly only about 230. So, but it was people coming with their addresses that we could show if they were going to have a problem or not. So I think we should do the same thing here.
I'd like to see it start with a map being put into every person's hand that is a property owner within the district.
Correct me if
So
I'm
that they
wrong.
understand.
When I looked at it, I don't think, well, I don't know physically how you would do it, but if you click on a property and it gives you the watershed contribution, how you would take that for every address, I don't know that it would be physically possible.
Or you could.
Dave Bossy, so if I could,
Yes,
Dave, I
please.
think you've hit the problem, the nail on the head here. So I think if we could get with the GIS person and say, could we add to the map system the same way they've added the flood maps? They just added, outfalls. They've got a number of interesting things recently added to the GIS map system, where you can go in and just put in your address for your house. And if you click the overlay for my outflow, where does my outflow go? And it would just highlight your house and highlight you right down to the harbor or to Hummock Pond or Long Pond, wherever you go. It would seem to me that would be huge, that someone could just type in their address and say, show me this. And it would show where their property goes to. Map, I think the map's a great idea. and it comes from the same source. We just need to have a color-coded map that show all of the different districts that we can see by clicking on a property. But I'm sorry, on a neighborhood. But I think it'd be really clever if we could just have them added to the GIS map as another layer that says, where does my property run off to? And you click on it and just goes boop, and lights up that area right down to whatever you run to.
Right. I think to Andy's point, I think you could do the watershed you could put a copy of the watershed overlay map in the tax bills, but those are the, those are the 30,000 foot view. What you do by putting in your neighborhood is the 500 foot view.
Right.
So maybe to Andy's point, you put the large overshed, the larger map in the tax bill, just to get as a teaser to get their attention.
And you could probably put a narrative in there to some extent. If you'd like to have more information, you can come visit us and we can show.
We're going to schedule a public viewing, if you will, and be able to do it property by property.
Right. Yeah. I like it.
Okay, now I'm getting what you're saying.
See, if you have the watershed, for instance, that goes, for I'll use this one right here, the creeks, down, to Orange Street, and if you want to believe it or not, to Myacomic Pond, if you want to believe all that. We've done studies on all that, but just, as an example, you've got this cone looking thing around Myacomic Pond, like we were saying the other day. I was telling them about how the watershed for Myacomic Pond is so large compared to the size of the pond,
Yeah.
where the other ones are kind of 1.5 to 1. The pond is so big and the watershed is not that much bigger. But Myacomic is, I think, 20 or something to 1. So you show them that. And then, if you want to know where your house is on Myacomic Ave, come on Saturday afternoon and we'll show you exactly what your contribution is or isn't. That was the thing with the FEMA thing. We did it to kind of disprove that all these people had a problem. There were 1,200 and some properties affected by the new maps, but at the end of the day, like I told you, a corner of a property doesn't make the guy have to go out and buy flood insurance, so we disproved a lot of things. I mean, there was a house down on Beaver Street, it was a perfect example, if you had a big storm and it was in the velocity zone, he would have had 5 feet of water in his house. Obviously something of concern, but you see what I'm saying? It was kind of more of a disproving thing. But I think that's what we should do. I think we should hold a public hearing and hold it in the summer, hold it in July. Wouldn't cost us anything, a little bit of advertising and do it at the community room where you have a lot of room, have a bunch of computers set up.
Have you seen those maps where they will make it with a vacuform that shows the different elevations of,
Of the water.
of the land, like that are thicker? So it's a contour,
Mhm.
it's a raised contour, it's a plastic.
Right, oh, I see what you mean.
Like there's one for Berkshire County, for
Mhm.
example, that shows you all the highs and lows and,
Topography.
you could drip on it and have fun.
That would be, hands-on. Okay. All right, well, I like where this is going. How do we move forward and present it? As far as I'm a little questionable about what kind of turnout you get. And maybe making the paper map and sending it to everybody in the zone is a little old fashioned, but how about an easy link to the GIS map so that they can locate themselves at home and be able to look at that map like you look at Google Earth and somehow be able to discover.
Right, with a flyer in, possibly in the tax bill.
Yeah.
With the link
Yeah,
that says, if you're concerned, and most of us are and should be.
more like we hope you're
About,
concerned.
right, about improving or maintaining water quality in Nantucket. Click on this link and look at your property,
I think that
just a one pager.
I think we do have a mock-up of a map and put it into the form of a recommendation to the select board and say, and present to them Dave's idea. So that we can get help from them.
Mhm.
We want to do this on this day or whatever. We'd love to be able to do a mailer to everybody. Of course, that's gonna cost money, but, you know, I don't know, does the town have the ability to send an email to everybody who's a voter? But
Plus taxpayer, I mean, property owners, right? That's each property owner. So I guess I can do if we're talking a mock-up, it's not something I would send out to anybody, but I could try to do a mock-up based on the existing maps. Ideally, the GIS guy would be able to just make in one step a mock-up. I mean, a real photo that we could send out, because I'll be working off of each of his different layouts. I assume it's a he, I'm sorry, that was a bad assumption. So I would be working off of each one of the layouts of their overlays. Which I could probably, I could do that and make a mock-up if that's what we want to do.
Go ahead.
it would just be enough to get the select board's attention. It doesn't have to be the finished product.
And I don't-
No, it wouldn't be, right? Okay.
I don't think it needs to be every one of them. I think it needs to be one in my opinion, needs to be one as an example, and I'll find out how to get it in the tax bill. I'll find out. I don't know that there's a charge. I don't know that there isn't. But I know that the land council has had stuff in there. I don't know, but I'll find out tomorrow how to get something included in say, the July tax bill. And what are your thoughts on that, Dave? Do you think you need to have every watershed?
No, Dave, I agree with you. I think it's simply, I would do the harbor as a mock-up. But when you go to do the mailing, and if the select board buys in, then we have the GIS person say, okay, here's the harbor. And then they just add each of the overlays to a single document. And I would say, put that in the mail with a link saying, as we discussed, here's map geo. Go here and look at your house, look at this map and go, oh, there's my house. And you'll see where your house flows. So I would think the mock-up, we could just get away with the harbor, which is probably a lot easier, for me. I don't want to do that, but being able to do one without having to try to get the other ones and overlay them onto this mock-up. Probably easier to do one and say, we would like to have this encompass the whole island, but here's the vision. Here's the harbor. Here's a color view flow of the harbor based on existing maps. And we'd like to suggest that this be included in a mailing with the whole island, showing where everybody flows. And ideally, people could click on their house on the harbor and click on GIS map geo and just click on the overlay and find out where they flow. But initially, let's just go with, if we could send out a picture of the whole island that looks like what we've submitted as the harbor, then people can look at that and click on map geo and go, oh yeah, oh, there's my house. Oh, I see where my house is going. So I think that's a great start. I really do.
All right, and I'll find out how we get that half page or page into the tax bill.
Okay,
And
I'll see.
what kind of deadlines they have, and matter of
Okay.
fact, I was just talking to the tax people today, but for income tax purposes, but anyway, I'll give them a call and find out how we can do that.
And if there's a question about the cost of the flyer, we can reach out as well to other.
Either
entities if it's an
NSA or
issue.
possibly, you know, it's
Other
gonna
land
be.
council.
Conservation.
Gonna be advertised, you know, under a heading of advertising or educational, probably educational. You know, maybe Jeff can shake a few bucks loose. I don't think it's gonna be a lot,
Right,
but I just don't know how you do it.
right.
We'll figure it out.
I think,
Okay. I'll put that on my list to see about producing something, and I'll get it out to everybody.
Because you're not paying for the postage. You're paying. You're paying, I don't know what you're paying for. Maybe you're paying for the copying of the insert. You know, and that can't be that much, because you're not paying for postage because it's going in the tax bills. And it, you know, it's not gonna increase the weight of the tax bill into the next postal bracket. So I'll just find out the mechanics of it.
well, how does the board feel about having an explanation of an example of what contaminants from your property can be? I can just visualize some people thinking, well, you know, I don't do anything that's contaminating and
Fertilizer.
Well, you can mention the dumpsters that are on people's lots that are leaking,
paint.
whatever. That's a great example. It's paint, it's changing your oil in the driveway, it's all the stuff that
Mulch, fertilizer, yeah, everything.
And
Maybe I think an explanation is warranted, yes.
And it would also be an opportunity for us to explain about our dumpster sticker program.
Mhm. Which I'll bring up at the next NSA meeting, is like, it's next Tuesday.
So we
I will
shouldn't
bring
mention
that
that
up again.
dumpster sticker program until we know it's gonna happen.
Well,
No,
they've
no,
approved
but
it.
that was already approved, and what
Yeah.
I'm saying is that logo that you have for the dumpster sticker program would be ideal up in the upper left-hand
yeah,
corner of
yeah.
this flyer,
Mhm,
you know, and
mhm.
you know what I'm just saying? Tie the two together.
Well, the latest thing I'm seeing that really bothers me is a lot of new infill developed homes are being built without gutters and downspouts and dry wells, and even probably 80% to 90% of houses that have gutters and downspouts do not have dry wells. And I feel that this stormwater runoff really needs to be absorbed as best as possible on people's own private property. And we're seeing streets that never flooded before flooding, large standing water puddles, and what comes off your roof may not be contaminated. If you have a lot of birds hanging out on your roof, then yes, you're gonna have some nitrogen stuck to the roof that's washed off in rainstorms. What comes off of the material itself, the asphalt shingles or treated wood shingles. I feel, you know, if there were more of a push for people to absorb their stormwater at home, so to speak, we'd have fewer problems, less heavy amounts of water pushing the contaminants down towards the storm drains, and more filtering done through the soil before it ends up in the harbor. So I feel like an array of examples should be included in this newsletter, we'll call it.
Oh, I can think of one big thunderstorm when there was a major transformer leak and a very rainy day, and there's transformer oil going right down the street. And that's not the property owner,
Right.
that's electrical.
Mhm.
I mean, that's.
Well, whatever we can try to eliminate, you know, starting at home. It's gotta start at home, and I think there's not a whole lot of awareness out there. So, That would be, the transformer is more like, well, you hope National Grid is going to respond as
Well,
quickly as possible.
They were responding to
It's
the
the fire
electrical
department.
emergency, but they were not doing anything with the stuff that was, coming out. I mean,
Mhm.
it would be nice if, we could somehow raise national grid's awareness so that there was. Maybe someone would have a boom or something
Right,
when they're
right.
starting like that. I mean, they block the street anyway while they're working,
Mhm.
it'd be nice to have a
Good
boom
idea,
to
yeah.
catch the
Mhm.
iffy stuff.
Is that, the spill response?
No, that's more of a, that would be a National Grid. They would have pads and absorbent material and storm drain caps
Mhm.
probably on the rig. So, is some gonna get there? Maybe. It's probably mineral oil. So it's probably not anything real bad.
Mhm.
It's not like the old days with PCBs and stuff like that. But I would imagine that they carry that oil recovery stuff on their rig, but I would just imagine.
Well, they
I
weren't
was-
using it that day, but
No, well, that's, they were.
that was one day.
Oh,
That
no,
was
no, no,
one-
but it's
That's one data point.
but it's
That's
one of
all.
those- But it's one of those situations where, it can happen, and that's what you have to plan for.
Well, I remember seeing the spill response trailers here.
Yeah, well,
Years
those are
ago.
primarily, they're geared to the harbor, and the storm drain.
still in
outfall
existence?
pipes. What's that?
They still in existence?
Yeah, the Marine Department has.
Mhm.
As a matter of fact, as a sidelight, the one that the Coast Guard had has also been given to the Marine Department. Because the Coast Guard isn't. If you said to a Coast Guardsman, there's a problem with storm drain by the A&P, he's gonna look at you and say, oh, okay, where's
What
the
A&P?
A&P? That's exactly what he's gonna say.
AFP went out of business, well, anyway.
No, but you see what I'm saying,
I know what
I'm slanting it to Nantucket. Yeah.
Any more discussion on stormwater runoff and the production of the contributing zone map? FDA shellfish taking prohibition in mooring fields. Anything new we should know about, Tara? Should we be keeping this on our agenda
I think so.
for future discussion?
The closure will take effect in May, unless they change their mind on what we've presented with them, but I think we'll take the raw data that we've gotten from the water quality and compare it to the last 3 years, especially in that area. And, just kind of continue to make a case for why we believe it should be open. I know they came out and counted boats, but that's really all they're going by right now, is how many boats they're counting.
Any response to what you?
They didn't really give much of a response. They didn't.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Well, thank you, because you put some time into that, and it was well written.
More boats than ever.
there are a lot of boats.
Yeah. And that's understandable too, but. As like Dave says, the type of boats that are in the Halbert Avenue area, at least, I was checking it out. and-
They all had a head. You'd have
Yeah.
something to worry about. but they
Yeah.
don't.
I see one stayed out quite long into, late into the season, a 3-engine. Probably 25, 26 foot boat there, but
I think it's the rental moorings that are the main question, like, can those rental moorings be moved away from that area and to like have a buffer, I don't know.
okay. Thank you, Tara. There's nothing else on that topic. New business, we have Coastal Resilience Advisory Board update.
I'm sorry, I really don't have much of an update, Andy. I
Okay,
know I said I would, but I went back through my notes and it was just Vince sort of updating us on various things, so nothing new.
okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Through you, Dave Bossy. Dave, you still there?
Mr. Bossy,
He's muted.
Yes, getting off mute.
Did I understand you correctly that you were gonna work on the watershed map part?
I will work on a mock-up of the harbor view. So that
Okay.
we can show it to them and select board and say, we're thinking of the whole island, this
Okay,
type of thing.
and I'll talk to the tax people and Nathan Porter. Can I ask where you are right now? Or you're not?
I'm still in Nantucket. I'll be traveling next meeting, but right now I'm here. I just couldn't come
Okay,
out.
I just wanted to make sure you weren't someplace warm.
No, next
No.
meeting I'll be on my way, so I'll be iffy. I'll be traveled.
It was pretty darn warm today, as a matter of fact.
Until about 3 o'clock.
Thanks, Dave.
Well, yeah, but
Yep.
still.
all right, Mr. Franzuto and Mr. Bossy, thank you for taking on these special little projects. If any public questions from the public, comments? Anything, any board members would like to have added to the agenda for the next meeting? If not, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
Motion's made by Mr. Franzuto, seconded by Ms. Andrews to adjourn tonight's meeting. All in favor, Ms. Andrews,
aye.
Mr. Franzuto,
Aye.
Mr. Anderson,
Aye.
Mr. Brace,
Aye.
Mr. Bossy.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Good night, everyone.
Good night.